Like to call to order the Parks Board meeting Monday, June the 24th. If you'll stand, we're going to have the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Bennett, will you do the honor, sir?
My pleasure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Play ball.
I didn't know who was going to say it, but that's it. I think we had a citizen's comment, but that it got canceled, did it not, sir?
Yes, she's actually on the agenda for this evening.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you, my friend. I will ask for an approval for the minutes of May 20th. Mr. Bennett first, Mr. White second. Any discussion? No. All in favor say aye. Aye. Thank you very much, sir. Athletic Committee report, would that be Mr. Frank?
On pages 7 and 8 are the minutes that were taken from the June 10th meeting. I'll let you reference those and happy to take any questions. The result of that meeting, it was a packed house, and there were a couple of recommendations, and I'll summarize those recommendations. First of all, Mr. Head was selected the chair of that athletic committee.
Yes, sir.
So, but since he's not here, I've been voluntold to give the report. But there were several recommendations that came out of that. The first is about midway down on page 8. There was a motion that was made and passed that the Connect Committee move forward with a couple of provisions. There were some changes to the original proposal that Mr. Gilley made months and months and months ago. But the athletic committee's recommendation is to ask the board to move forward with the Connect Committee with a couple of revisions. And for the sake of transparency, those revisions were that the Connect Committee meet monthly for the next couple of months to get some traction, get going, with the intention of the Connect Committee submitting a report, addressing the full board at the August Parks Board meeting to tell us where they are, kind of their thoughts and their collective vision. A second piece to that was that we really felt that the Connect Committee needed to have some parent/community input. So we would recommend that the Connect Committee expand to 9, where there would be 4 members from Tennessee United, which would be their 2 directors of coaching and 2 representatives of their choice. They can change monthly. They can change however Tennessee United chooses to select those. And the same for Hendersonville Soccer Club, so there'd be 4 or 4. And then this board tonight would appoint 1 member to serve as the odd tie-breaking in the event that there needs to be some representation about what the board can and can't do. We'll take any questions.
First, are you bringing this to the board for an okay or a vote or a motion?
Well, after answering questions, I think we're going to make a motion.
Okay, good enough. Good enough.
Unless you would rather us make the motion and direct questions on that.
No, I want to hear that. Second off, really, this is getting ahead a little bit, but I'm going to do it anyway. See hands of who would be willing to be on this board, on the one that I'm assuming you're talking about.
There he is right there.
Right there, right there.
Mr. Pike, you're in. Okay, good enough.
No.
You did good.
All right, I'm going to, can I appoint him?
No, not without me being.
I am going to appoint him on that. And
You need
if,
to probably take a vote on it.
beg pardon?
Probably need to take a vote on it.
Well, should I restate it in his presence so he knows what he's?
Yeah, do that and
Okay.
yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm recapping the athletic committee meeting from earlier, where the singular item was the Connect Committee to bridge the 2 soccer clubs.
Okay.
And we're going to make a motion here in just a moment, but just recapping that it's our recommendation that the board continue forward with the Connect Committee with a few revisions. First one is that they're going to meet a little bit more frequently to try to gain some traction. Secondly, they're going to expand in number to try to bring some parent and community representation from both sides to the table. There was, as you read in the minutes, there were a couple of things that we feel that the Connect Committee has direct oversight for, that both entities share. One of them was to withdraw some of the financial oversight, but more direct it towards what is their vision for park and facilities improvement, how both of those can bring to the table and work collectively to maybe expedite some of those enhancements that both clubs want and the parks need. So with the expansion, there needs to be some representation, we feel, from the board to represent and possibly interject where decisions are getting ready to be made that needs board oversight, input, or in the event of a stalemate, needs to try to be able to move things forward. So that would be.
All right, that being put, questions of the report. Shut up, Mike. All right, do I hear a motion, sir?
Motion.
Okay, state the motion one more time.
Motion to institute the Soccer Connect Committee with the changes Mr. Frank mentioned, the more frequent meetings to start off and get it rolling, and to appoint 4 members from Tennessee United, 4 members from HSC, plus a 9th member from our board.
Mr. Fike. All right, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I second.
Second, Mr. White. More discussion on this?
Yes, sir. One thing I briefly brought up during that meeting that I would like to possibly consider putting in with this Connect Committee. When Ms. Lamar came back as interim director, the 2 clubs had some conflicts and they weren't getting along, and one of the things that we tried to do is require that the 2 clubs attend each other's board meetings every month. So Tennessee United would go to Rec Soccer's meeting, Rec Soccer's would go to Tennessee United's. That happened for a couple of months, and then we were told, the office staff here was told that they were doing away with that. I would like for that to possibly come back and that be part of the athletic committee. I think that would be a positive in them working together and moving forward with the athletic committee and the player development and the park improvements. So just out of consideration, totally up to you guys on that one.
Did you say that would fall under the athletic committee or the Connect Committee?
I'm sorry, yes, the Connect Committee. I would say 1 member of the Connect Committee from each club attend each other's meetings. Yeah.
Now, does that change the parameters of your motion? You want to amend the motion, sir?
Yes, we'll probably need to amend it, add that to it. And there was a third part. Oh, have the Soccer Connect Committee appoint a spokesperson that come and reports to the board starting in August.
Very nice, very nice. Okay, I need a motion for the amended motion. I need a motion, Mr. Detterbrand. Second, Mr. White. Any more discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right. Question of both of y'all. In a great world, is this moving forward like we want it to?
We will
In your
see.
opinion?
We will see. In full clarity to everybody who has any level of stake in this, that has been following this, there were several times in the meeting where we got a little tense and we kind of felt like we were kind of at an impasse, but to both groups' credit, we left there with an agreement, and with this motion carried, it will now be, the proof will be, if they hold up their end of the bargain. One of the things that's embedded in the minutes that did not need to be voted on, now that the motion is carried, is that the Parks Board staff is going to select the date of each of the meetings so that that can't become a barrier to productive meeting. And it was stated very clearly that if either party does not want to abide, by this, then, the future of the ability to coexist in a park structure might be a question.
Is there anybody on this board, myself included, that would absolutely fit their criterion of what they're looking for as far as if they come to an impasse, they'll take if you remember some meeting back, I said something about an arbitrator. This seems to be like
Yes.
it's kind of, we got one of those.
That
But
was.
are they willing to abide by that, or will we just see?
I don't know if I feel comfortable speaking for that.
I asked the question during the meeting if there was something we could do to make them abide by it, and I believe we'd have to get the city attorney involved to take a look and see if our, what was it, Dallas?
The facility use agreement that was just passed 2 months ago.
So not that he isn't already, but Mr. Pike is a lame duck sort of here, right? As far as this goes, because if it don't show up like they want it to show up, they'll just say, no, we're not going to take that. Is that correct? Does that make sense? I mean,
I don't think that's, I think this is a big step in the right direction.
okay, that's all I was asking for. I needed to know.
I think it has merit and it has teeth to it. And I think the people that use our park need to go by what our Parks Board
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
tells them to admit it. You don't want to get in the mud in the details of the day-to-day operation of a league, but
No,
big picture items and how we would like for our leagues to be represented, and especially in communication with our staff and following by our guidelines and policies. Yes, I think it has.
Good enough. That's what I was, my greatest hope, after we left here the last meeting, my greatest hope was that they would all four get together and hug each other and say we're on the right track. And that didn't happen, but I mean, maybe we're closer to that, so
I'm cautiously optimistic.
The way it's set up is they're going to meet in July and early August with the opportunity to present to the full board publicly what they have been working towards on their organization and structure. And so we should know 2 months from now the viability of this.
Yeah, okay. And separately from this, we'll get reports from the athletic committee as well, right?
If we meet.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, for our purposes. Yeah, I got you. All right.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
down here. So
Hey, what?
I know Mr. Pike will do a great job, but in a perfect world, and I don't know how we got, I missed some of those meetings, I think. Mr. Dallas or Mr. Gilly should have been the ninth man. And I don't know how that got off track, but they're the ones that are involved in it on a day-to-day basis. They know exactly what's going on. They're in the best position to understand what's going on. So I don't know how that got off track or who said they didn't want that. But maybe if they run into a little bit of a impasse or whatnot, that could be reinstated. So.
All right, sir. Old business, park project updates. Mr. Gilly?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll try to be brief. As far as projects that we have going on, we are still undergoing flood repairs in several areas of the park. We have made great progress, but we still have a long way to go as far as our field conditions. This weekend's a good example. We had a rain on Saturday, and a 90-team softball tournament had to cancel, and ended up we probably could have played on Sunday, but they were afraid that by looking at them on Saturday we wouldn't be able to get them ready. So we don't need to let that keep happening, but we are making a lot of progress. We did finish totally renovating Field 1, which is by the football field. It looks great if you have a chance to go look at it. This week we will begin sodding, not sprigging, but sodding in a soccer complex, which is a little different than we've done in the past. We're going to actually put down whole sod areas in the goal mouths and in other worn out areas, and hope we can get those going. Public Works instrumental in helping us with some drainage issues at Tennis and a new curb around behind field 7 and 11. There's been days we wouldn't have been able to play on field 11 the last couple of weeks had we not had this curb put in, which has been, I think, probably 17 years in the making. So that's a good project to get going. We have collected estimates on the tennis restroom renovation. We hope to begin that this summer, and we have started installing new metal bleachers that we got due to flood damages. Insurance money helped us get some new bleachers in the dugouts. Benches, not bleachers, sorry. Last thing is little talked about area of the park at Sanders Ferry. We got, thanks to a little cooperative arrangement with our maintenance staff and the Model Airplane Club, we've got all new fencing, and they have all new landing areas out there. So that looks good if you're down at Sanders Ferry. Any questions about anything I can try to answer?
Very nice report.
Thank you.
No problem. Under new business, First Responders Memorial, Mr. Gilly, Chief Bush, and Mr. Robertson.
I will, they're not here, so I will take that on, Mr. Chairman.
We'll let you do that.
Basically, what we've, at Fire Hall number 2, before it was condemned, they had a piece of the 9/11 buildings that was on display there. Chief Bush and I and Trace in our Public Works Department are working on a plan to hopefully move that monument over to Memorial Park, where the public has a little better access to see it. It's a spot beside the fountain. If you're looking at the Memorial Park fountain to the right, there's an area there between the trees that we feel like would be a good place. Alderman Robertson came forward and wanted to work with the Rotary Club himself and make it into a first responders memorial after we get the 9/11 part installed. They will be working on that with the Rotary Club. We are asking this board to basically give your blessing on us installing this piece of the 9/11 tragedy and as well as the first responder memorial in that piece of Memorial Park. That's what we would like to request your approval on.
Motion to approve. Mr. Pike, second. Anybody second? Mr. White? Any more discussion? All in favor?
Real quick question. With that, will there be a way to secure, I would like to think that our city would appreciate that, but that's a pretty invaluable piece of history, and I would hate for some folks to look at it as a prank of some sort. I'm very much in favor. I'm glad that our city and citizens want to do that, but I want to protect it as well because we've got generations of kids coming through that have no idea what that is.
Right.
And if it's in a public space, it needs to be done well.
I know at Fire Hall number 2, it was set out where you could touch it on a brick stand. It's a nice display. We're going to try to recreate that same thing. We have talked about putting it in a case. There was we had a meeting amongst city staff and some community people, and it kind of went back and forth of do we want people to have the ability to actually touch the piece. So I don't know. That's probably yet to be determined how it actually is going to be secured there, and if it needs to be in a case and not out in the open. We're definitely going to light it up really good. So anybody that comes over there, it'll be lit up all night long. So that will help, hopefully. But
in this day and time, I kind of might agree with you a little bit. It might be better. They can make the determination, but it might be better that it might be in a cage or something.
It could be. It's something yet to be determined for sure.
That's fine. I'm sure they'll do it quite well.
Mm-hmm.
Should they be part of the motion?
No, I don't think so. Did we vote on that?
We haven't voted.
Wow. So we got to do that, don't we? All in favor,
They
say
were.
aye. All opposed? More discussion, young fella?
No, sir, I'm good.
Thank you, sir. Chutes and Ladders Kickoff Event, Ms. Harris. First and foremost, ma'am, thank you for your service. You as a police officer and all of your people do not get the credit that they deserve, and we give it to you every time we see it. So next time I'll buy you a Coke or something, all right? Push the little red button if you don't mind, or the little button that make it, you didn't have to hit it.
And not to break it.
All right, there you go. Go right ahead, ma'am.
Okay, first thing, the title was changed to Shoots and Ladders Knockout instead of Kickoff, so it's a knockout now. I'm asking to host a charity fundraiser event at the parks at Drakes Creek. It's going to be for the Hendersonville Police Department Explorer Post 112. A little bit about it, the overview. The Police Explorer Post 112 is a self-funded program that is sponsored by HPD. The Police Explorer program is a part of the Boy Scouts of America and exploring learning of life of youth ages 14 to 20 that are interested in a career in law enforcement. Some of the goals having this fundraiser event will be to raise money for the program since it is self-funded. The funds raised at this event will be used to buy training equipment for the explorers. The funds will also be used to offset the cost of attending competitions, including the hotels, registration fees, meals, team building, practicals, outings, and etc. The fund will also assist with paying the yearly charter dues of the Explorer Post. Another goal is to bring awareness to everyone about the Explorer program. A lot of people don't know what that is. And then the third thing is to recruit more children to the Explorer program. So those are the goals of having the event. A little bit about the details of the fundraiser event. I'm asking to be held at Drakes Creek Park on the football side. I've already spoke with Ms. Wise and Mr. Mayberry, Frank Mayberry, which he said we could, or it's okay with him as long as he can do like a vendor to sponsor his football league, and that's fine with me. So knocker balls, it's a inflatable ball that you can get in, and here's like a little picture of it for the knockout. So that's where the knockout comes, police versus fire knockout. So I talked to Jonathan, who's the owner of Knocker Balls, and he's willing to partner with us to do the fundraiser. He has his own insurance that you sign, like a waiver. And I'm sorry. Okay, liability, and his company is bonded. So all the liability he's going to handle through his company if anyone happens to get injured. Hopefully not. We're going to be asking people $5 to play. That's where we're going to get the money for the event. Not just police officers and fire is going to be able to play, but anybody in the park can participate. I'm also having food trucks to come. I've talked to them, and they're willing to donate 20% of their donations that they get at the event. So that's another way of getting money. Of course, we're going to have some vendors, like CPA is going to be there to do fingerprinting for free. Have a couple gyms that are going to come be vendors, because it's all about fitness. I want to promote kids. So it's kind of like a fun event for children as well. And then hopefully I'll get a dunk tank out there, and then it'll be $5 to do that for 3 tries. And that's another way we're going to raise some money. I think that's it.
You did very well.
Oh, the date is July 13th, sorry. Saturday, and the times I'm asking is from 9 to 3, which 2 to 3 is going to be a cleanup. Now, I know that there's a bunch of tournaments going on in the park that day, which I think that's going to be a great time because there's going to be people already there. It's not going to inconvenience them to come out, and it's going to be great for not social media, but for advertising, because all they're going to see, and when they get done playing, they can come over.
Have you already gone over it with the staff as far as the land usage and the insurance situations and all of that?
I talked with Frank. I don't know if Frank relayed the information or not.
Very nice, all right.
She's
I
good,
will,
yeah, yes, she has.
I'm sorry?
Yes, she's talked with Andrea, and
Okay.
we've got it covered as far as the field usage.
Good enough.
Mr. Chairman, I will say too, I have been in touch with our representative with the city insurance, and that knocker ball activity is covered on our end as well. So the company will have insurance and waivers, and it's an approved activity with the city's insurance. And hopefully you'll have Chief Miller in the dunk tank.
Well, I'm trying to get him to do it. Now, the mayor said he would, but he'd be out, unfortunately, but I'm trying to get the chief to do it.
The mayor will not be in the dunk tank?
He said he would, but then he's going on vacation, so there he
Oh.
goes. I'm like, okay.
Unfortunate.
And then I'm going to have some bouncy houses, too.
I think Chief Miller and Chief Bush will be great additions to
I
the dunk
agree.
tank.
I agree.
You've got insurance to cover me and Pike and one involved?
Yes, sir, we do. We have that.
Yes, sir.
One question real quick. Anybody down there can answer it. No, we're gonna have tournaments going on, parking will kind of flow because it'll all mingle in. But if you've got food trucks down there on that end, how does that detain parking on that end? Because I'm sure you're gonna line them up kind of like you do at the fireworks or whatever. How will that hurt anything that day?
We have kind of a setup. How many food trucks you plan on having?
Right now, I have 3.
3. Basically, when you come into the park right there, we have it. The last few events we've had, and we've been able to kind of set a path for food trucks and then route the parking and route it. I think we'll be able to control that pretty well.
Okay. Any more questions of this young lady? I'll entertain a motion to approve. Mr. Bennett, Mr. Pike, second. Any more discussion? All in favor say aye. All opposed? Nobody. Are you this nice when you give tickets?
Maybe. No.
I'm gonna remember that.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. All right. 50th anniversary celebration of musical heritage, Mr. Sprouse. I love to watch this. State your name, sir. I love to do that.
I'm Scott Sprouse. I live at 127 Woodville Drive in Hendersonville.
Thank you, Mr. Sprouse.
I always kind of wonder what it's like to stand here. I will say, now that the officer is gone, I do have experience in a dunk tank. The only thing is, I make such a big splash that they have to refill about half of it every time I go into it.
We're going to
But,
put you in the
myself-
lake. That's
I'll
all
make
right.
myself available for that. Event we have before you tonight is something that been working on with the Parks Director on back when he was Alderman Gilly. It's a conversation knowing that we have this summer the actual 50th anniversary of the incorporation of the city of Hendersonville. Needing to have some sort of way to bring community together to celebrate community. And one of the very important things, we have a lot of neighbors who have and do make their living entertaining not just us but people throughout the world. And we'd like to be able to celebrate them, their heritage, and use music as an opportunity to bring the community together. You can see the event is actually scheduled. We have, with the anniversary being this summer, though, because of weather and also other calendars, we're looking at a schedule in October, first Tuesday in October. Again, with the schedule and the calendar, when you're asking people who perform for a living to perform for free, we work with their calendars, and we don't want to take away one of their big paying nights on the weekends, and it's looking like that Tuesday's working out the best for everybody.
Questions, Mr. Sprouse?
Mr. Chairman, is this going to be set up like a stage out, like where the Freedom Festival stage would be?
It's going to be set up, it may actually be set up a little bit further back, just depending on how we need parking and how much we need parking. There's the possibility that we could contain a significant amount, if not all of the parking on site. As we start to fill in and announce the lineup, that really is going to adjust the size of the event. There could be some people who could draw a couple of thousand. There could be some people who could draw as many as 5. And so we really need to wait until we see what the size and the placement of the stage is. We have some names already confirmed, but we want to wait until we have a really good, significant amount confirmed before we have the official lineup. If we do need to go to parking, and this is something the director doesn't even know, I have had conversation with the director of schools, and he is going to be looking at their calendar and doing everything they can should we need use of any of their facilities for support.
Any more questions?
I will not be singing, by the way. I just want, at least not officially.
Well, that makes it better.
I have two sons who will guarantee
Mr.
that.
Pike?
I know it's on here, it looks like you don't know exactly the vendors that are going to be involved in it yet. But are you going to have food trucks? Are we going to have that kind of thing?
Food trucks are an option right now. I'll quite frankly say is I go to a lot of festivals.
Yeah.
I am not a fan of food trucks at festivals. They're a good idea, but they tend to be highly inefficient for large crowds. I would much rather have 20 people sitting under a tent selling hot dogs and hamburgers than 2 people inside of a food truck with a line of 60 people. I think you're going to just, a lot of it's just going to depend on the size that we end up with. My preference would be that, based upon what I think we're going to have, is that food trucks could be an option, but they're not going to be the primary source of food.
I'll entertain a motion to approve. Mr. White? Okay. And Mr. Frank, Mr. White to Mr. Frank. Mr. Frank made the motion, you seconded the motion, I'm sorry. Okay. Any more discussion on the matter? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Thank you, Mr. Sparrow.
Thank you, Board. We'll be here at 7:30 tomorrow night to probably 1 o'clock tomorrow morning or Wednesday morning. Y'all are more than welcome to come. I'll save you a seat.
We'll bring some soccer balls.
That's good, thanks.
Always lively, always lively. All righty, next on the agenda, alcohol sales at Honey Festival, Friends of Hendersonville. Push the button if you don't mind, ma'am. State your name.
Hello, I'm Kelsey Morris, and I work with Good Neighbor Festivals, we are managing the Tennessee Honey Festival this year. So I come to you today to Mont Haven Cultural and Arts Center is applying for we are applying to serve alcohol in Memorial Park, obviously pending proper approval from the Beer Board and the Tennessee Alcohol Beverage Committee. They are our nonprofit that we're partnering with for this event. So we are just here to kind of ask you about that. As you see, you have a map in front of you as well for the event. So our event, the Honey Festival, is in Memorial Park. So what I created for you is a security map and kind of a layout of the festival, so you kind of understand some of the parameters that we have in place pending approval of the alcohol sales. So we will have security around the festival. We'll have, we'll fence it in. The area is already fenced, if you see on the map. You've been there. The thin black line is the fencing that's already there. The thick black line is the fencing that we would bring in to help kind of create that area that alcohol could not exit. And then we will have security at every exit point to confirm that it does not leave the premises. Our current partnership set up with Mont Haven. They are listed as an event partner. They'll have their logo and name listed on the event website. They would get shout outs on social media, as well as a booth at the festival. And then they would get 5% of all beer and alcohol sales after expenses.
Okay. Questions?
Mr. Chairman, if I
Yes, sir.
may for a minute, just to give everybody a little background on how we are here. You all, as a board, there was an ordinance that was going to come forward for Bowman to vote on to allow beer in the parks. Upon studying it, everybody getting their heads together, Mr. Bradley, the city attorney, along with some help of other attorneys, concluded that the city statute to apply for a special event permit allows for nonprofits to request the special event permit. An event that has a special event permit could be approved by this board anytime. So basically what I'm telling you is for the last 25 years, you could have had these requests. But the key to it is the nonprofit has to partner with or be the sole owner of the special event permit. The beer board doesn't meet until August. They meet the first Thursday of every month. So we've already missed the June beer board. There will not be a meeting in July. So they're asking basically in this case, you all to approve their event contingent upon them getting approval from the Hendersonville Beer Board. The state of Tennessee for the liquor portion, correct me if I'm wrong about this, Kelsey, the liquor portion, they cannot get that license until the property owner approves the event. So you would be approving this we've already approved the Honey Festival. There's going to be a Honey Festival no matter if there's Coca-Cola, not to name brands, whatever, or whatever there is there. It doesn't matter if they got Coke or Jack and Coke. They're going to have the Honey Festival. All right? But they're asking for your approval contingent upon them getting the proper permitting and our staff and the police being comfortable with all the security.
You have gone through 3 different areas I don't understand. Will you be overseeing all of these things you just mentioned?
You know, to be honest, I think at this point, if this event is approved by you all in this location with all this, I think now is the time that we as a staff have got to sit down and come up with a handbook, a permanent handbook of if you have an event, this is what you're going to do. I think somebody like Kelsey, who grew up here and now does this for a living, could be a great resource for me personally and our staff because the way they've got things laid out and the professionalism that they go about it is pretty top notch if you've ever been to any one of their events. So I think this is the point where we come up with, as a city, our own guidelines. And then somebody like this comes in and says, we will go by that. We might even add to it. But the bare minimum is what we request.
And we can do that as a board?
I think you can definitely do that. Yes. You can set it'd be just like setting fees for an event. You could also, as a board, say that the special event fee for an event that has alcohol is higher than the normal event fee, which it should be. It is in every other city. You can correct me if I'm wrong about that too. I'm not trying to get in your pocket right now, but I'm just saying long term it should be. I think I answered your question.
Well, based on what Mr. Gilly has said, anybody have questions to that, to either him or each other? Because I don't understand it.
I have one question, just curiosity as much as anything. On Saturday, you list guards at these places you're going to have. Is that, do you have a relationship with a private security firm, or do you have your own guards, or where will those people come from?
Yes, we have all year, and we have a great relationship with Solarian, and they have guards so we hire a security company to come in, and they bring a supervisor, and they bring paid, we call them T-shirt security, so they're not an officer, but they are security, so.
Okay. Mr. Bennett?
Is there additional insurance that needs to be provided for this event to sell alcohol like this over and above what you've already got?
Not typically. At other events that we do, kind of that just blankets all in there.
Okay.
Unless you require it.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
You're good.
There are some cities that require additional insurance. We're not to that point yet. She's telling the truth when she says that not all their events do have to have that. But there are some cities that require it.
Mr. Pike? Were you through, Mr. Bennett?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
I like the fact, and I'm a little more comfortable with the fact than I was when we first started talking about this, that this is a fenced-in area. I'm assuming this is the lacrosse field.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I want to know I guess I'm just gonna be not the bad guy here, but the guy on the other side. If you've got a security guard, I'm not saying they're not great, that's not what I'm saying. You got a security guard that doesn't have a badge, that's only a security guard, and you've got a belligerent person who has drank a little too much, trying to get out of the fence saying, you're not gonna stop me, where are we going with that?
So we've also worked with the Hendersonville Police Department, and so that is where we have guards roaming and things like that. So if the security guard has done all that they can do, then that's when they pull in the police. So not at the same post, but we do have a uniformed police officer and a security guard in the area so that they can pull in to assist if needed.
The only reason I ask, I don't want anybody getting out of that park and being able to hurt somebody. I mean, it is what it is, but I would hate for that. That'd be a very unfortunate thing to happen and put a black eye on this whole thing. And that's my concern.
Understood.
And I agree to a degree, but I mean, that particular thing is for
It can happen
everywhere.
everywhere. It can happen
Everywhere, so,
Yeah, so we'll place signage at all of the places, which I understand that signage can only do so much, but that does help us cover ourselves in that kind of situation. We have a sign, we have a person, and we have a uniformed police officer in the area. So we've had three points of defense.
well, I'm gonna help Mr. Pike play bad guy a little bit. I mean, I understand taking care of your side. I'm worried about the people as well, and I think the more police officers you have around, honest to God police officers would maybe help that, in my opinion.
For sure. And in the paper in front of you, we have the ones like you see I break it out as already secured and then additional officers. So we've already worked with them. We have that plan in place for the ones we've already secured. We were all under the agreement that we would relook at it if the alcohol sales were approved. So I think we can definitely talk to them about that and kind of see what they're comfortable with. Like, we understand that it's their city, so we are happy to work with them to make everyone happy.
You've made your argument quite well. It's up to these gentlemen now. Question?
Do we have a limit? Are we gonna police a limit on what they can, how much they can buy, how much they can, have we thought about that?
So the licensed the bartenders and the catering company that we hire, as a part of their permit, or as a part of each individual person's ABC license, they have to cut people off when they believe that they can't. So it's just like any other bar you go to. That is kind of where we draw the line there. And that is on the bartenders as well as the whole staff, because if something goes wrong, then they also lose their license. So everyone has a bit of a buy-in as well. And then we've done it before, if having to get someone a safe ride. If we see it's an issue, we kind of stop it and take care of it and send them home. So.
Can I ask a question?
Sure, yes, sir, go ahead.
Will y'all be giving out wristbands or anything, like for people that are 21?
Yes, so we will
Here's why I'm
yeah.
asking. I don't want somebody that's 19 walking around the thing.
Makes sense, yeah.
Yeah.
So we will card at every transaction, every beer transaction, and then you'll also have a wristband. So even if you have that wristband on, you'll still get carded when you go up there,
okay,
but
good.
it also shows that you're allowed to be walking around with it.
I got you. Nice.
They're bright, you say 21 and up.
If there are no other questions, I'll entertain a motion. Okay. Mr. Frank first, Mr. Everett. I'll never get that right. Mr. Z is second. Any more discussion? Yes, sir.
One more thing about the map, and I was just looking over here by the playground. Is it going to be fenced, is the road going to be blocked off from the event to the playground? Right there, I'm just looking at this spot, looks like there's a black line that runs over the road. I just didn't want anybody to have to take a left out of there and go by the playground if they had been drinking and getting close to where the playground was.
Correct. So the only parking that we will have operational is that ADA
ADA
parking area. So we are not, we'll have some spots on the far side of the park, out by the playground, that will be held for tennis parking, and then it would just be volunteers and staff over there. So
Okay.
that's not the general admission parking. So everyone would exit to the right
Perfect.
towards Hendersonville.
Thank you.
Okay, I've got a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Yes, sir.
I just would probably think it would be really good to include in your motion that the final layout and security plan be approved by the Parks Department staff and the Hendersonville Police Department. Because, here's why I say that. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with this. What I'm saying is between now and then, as a staff inside City Hall here, we're probably going to have to work together to come up with a firmed up plan, and it may require more than what you're offering to do. I'm not saying it will, but does that make sense? This is not till September. This is June. So now that this is, I'll be honest with you, until I knew an event was coming, I wasn't going to waste our staff's time putting together a packet and a plan. Preliminarily we did, but now we can really have, if this gets approved, we'll have to get really into the nuts and bolts of it. I think that's important. If you don't mind, Mr. Frank, your motion including that.
Yes, I'll formally amend it that, to approve with the addendums that have been presented tonight to go along with the original application, but that prior to the event, the final layout map and security/law enforcement plan be approved by Mr. Gilly, Mr. Long, and the rest of the maintenance staff, so that it can be a smooth event for everybody.
Great. I have an amended motion, a second. Mr. Zediger? Any more discussion? All in favor say aye. All opposed? Thank you, ma'am. You did a good job.
Thank you.
Did a good job. You're better looking than anybody up here.
Except Ms. Wise. Except Ms. Wise. Oh, no.
Care to amend that?
I'm going to amend that. Ms. Wise, will you
dressed like a bee today.
will you accept my apology, ma'am? Thank you. Andrea, I'm really sorry. No, I really am. No, I know. Well, I'm just looking at everybody on this side over here is when I said it. So, I'm really sorry.
The feeling is mutual.
Oh boy, golly. God, I hope my wife don't watch this. I'm a dead man.
She don't. Make a phone call. Make
Shut-
a phone call, non-upset.
Oh, God. Festival of Lights at Drakes Creek Park, Miss Evgen and Miss Wise, the beautiful and lovely Miss Wise.
Do you want to go? Do you want me to go? Okay.
You're pretty too.
So if you're like Linda and myself, we both love Christmas. So we have decided to partner together to start a new Christmas event. It's going to be called the Festival of Lights at Drakes Creek. We're going to have some light displays along the creek at Drakes Creek Park, so people will pay to drive through and see these light displays. I'm trying to think what else.
Just so you understand,
All the time.
you know, every year we do the tree lighting. And so Andy Gilly has been so tremendous in making sure that that's gotten better and better. And we started this about 15 years ago when you used to have a tree out in front of the city hall. And we had about 8 people that would come for a tree lighting. Well, we've come a long way in 15 years because now we have anywhere from 2,000 to 4,000 people that come to the tree lighting. So Andy and Andrea and I got together and decided that in Lebanon, that they have a big festival of lights that gets some pretty good response. And we thought it might be a good fundraiser for the Parks Department to have this. And we're going to do it on a small scale, But the lights are this kind of stuff. And this lighting company is in Springfield, Tennessee, and they're going to work with us and give us big discounts on the displays. And Ultimate Party is going to set up the generators so that we can do this. And we're working with some volunteer organizations to have people to man it for at the beginning to take the money. And we're also going to put it online so that you can, if you're a family and you want to bring your kids, you can enter for $5 and print out your pass to go on the front of your car, and then our people manning it will see the pass and know to let you through. And we're really excited about it, and we see it as being something that can grow and get bigger as we go. And these displays are geared to companies and things like that if we do it this one time and we see if it works and if the city really enjoys it and the community likes it and that we can move forward, I think we can get sponsorship from companies, that want to have their display up. So that's the long-range goal, and the short goal is to have this, we've laid it out, we've driven it, we've looked at it to see where the displays would go, and I think we've got it all locked down, don't we, Andrea?
I think so, for the most part.
Yeah.
So.
But that gives you a little background about why and what it is.
Thank you, ma'am. Questions?
I just wanted to, I know we're starting small with this, and I think it could be a great thing. But I went through last year with my family through the one in Lebanon, and there was kind of to music and all that, and it is very big and but it's really it's worth the I think it cost us $6 to drive through. It's worth the $6 to go through it. So, however small we need to start to get there, I think it's a pretty good thing.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, go
Yes,
ahead,
sir.
Mr. Perry, I'm sorry.
Yes, sir.
Is this going to be with the tree lighting as well? It's gonna be the
Well,
same?
at the end of the day, we will, at the end of the tree lighting, which ends about 7:30, then we're going to tell everybody, start the Festival of Lights, and it will run for 2 weeks.
Awesome.
From, that's December 1st through till December 15th.
Awesome. And thank you for doing that every year. It's beautiful up there, and what you guys did last year, it was just, you're right, it went to another level,
Yeah.
the lights that you guys put up.
Well, I can't say
Thank you.
enough about this Parks Department and how wonderful they are and how grateful I am that we're able to do more and more for the community.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
So you're going to have the tree lighting,
Uh-huh.
and then you're going to tell them to go.
Well, we'll be publicizing this.
Okay, well, I'm just a
You
little
know.
bit, we don't have a problem with people all at one time deciding they want to go through the thing at one time.
The
No,
more the
and-
merrier.
And it'll run
Bring 'em
for
on.
it's gonna run every night for 2 weeks.
Okay, all right.
So from December 1st till December 15th, every night we'll have the drive-through.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman, I did want to make note that Ms. Linda's committee, the Holiday Fest, came to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen and requested for this event specifically $10,000 from the city. And they have actually put that in our parks budget for next year
Nice.
for us to get this going. So
EFE.
that was a nice gesture, I thought. We'll see tomorrow night. Anything could happen tomorrow night. But as of now, it's in there.
Indeed. Any more questions? Yes, sir.
I'm just curious about what the layout is if we're driving through the park. Where is this going to be located, and is it going to come in one entrance and go out the other entrance kind of thing?
Yep, you're gonna start, correct me if I'm wrong, when you go over the bridge, I think it's Cherokee Road, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Cherokee Road. It's gonna start there, you're gonna go through, continue on to Cherokee, and you're gonna turn out at Demos. And I actually talked to the manager at Demos, and we're gonna partner together. Anybody that comes in with their parking pass, they're gonna get 10% off their meal.
EFE.
So that'll help divert some of the traffic coming out all at once, so.
And we have some displays that we kind of looked at that was like the Nutcracker at the beginning.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
at the end, they've got a big Santa and he's waving goodbye.
Wow. Maybe I could get 10 of those passes and it doesn't matter anyway. Any more questions? Can't get out of this. I might, you never know. I know. Okay, any more questions? I'll entertain a motion. Mr. Bennett, Mr. Pike, second. Any more discussion? All in favor say aye. All opposed? You done it. That's good.
Thank you.
Talk to me after the meeting about the Santa Claus thing there. Tennessee United Soccer Club, Soccer Shops Partnership, Mr. Henson.
Hello, I'm actually Jonathan Whalen, not Steve Henson, but I am Tennessee United Soccer Club. Thank you for having me here. Yeah, we would like to partner with a national franchise called Soccer Shots. Soccer Shots is a U.S. youth soccer official provider of soccer for 2 to 5-year-old players. So we've kind of had a mutual conversation and mutual interest in partnering with each other, and so we're looking to do that. We're looking to do 2 to 4-year-olds. Right now we feel like the optimum time frames would be one time during the day, during the week, kind of a mommy and me type of program, and then the other time would be one time in the evening. It's kind of a peak time when older siblings are practicing, and so you can kind of take your younger sibling that's running around, you're trying to chase everywhere, over to an organized session. These programs are not totally designed to provide technical training and things like that, but there's lots of programs out there that are that are good for children, good for development, good for those type of things. We will be marketing and advertising this. The registration will all run through Tennessee United as well, and then Soccer Shots will be doing the sessions. Roughly 40 minutes long, depending on signups, 20 to 25 kids with a coach or 2 coaches, and everything else. I think you've got the handout that we put out there. So if there's any other questions, I'll feel free to answer them.
Okay. Questions?
One. How, dates-wise, when are you going to start this, and how does it impact Mr. Gilly Fields while we're using them back there?
I think ideally to start, it would start in August, kind of in conjunction with the regular seasons, but we do envision this a program that could run, with the soccer seasons, but also in the summertime as well, because there's parents that are always looking for things for their kids to do. It does not take up much space, no more than this room size really for those age kids. It can actually be on the margins of the fields. It can be outside of an area. So as far as space goes, we're not anticipating this taking up too much space, but I'll let Mr. Gilly.
I'll defer to Mr. Long on the soccer field space. He's the guru of soccer.
Mr. Long?
Yeah, it won't be a problem at all. When I was over at Moss Wright in Goodlettsville, we had Soccer Shots over there, and they use mostly general green space areas. They don't need an actual field. We were out there measuring fields last week, and there's a lot of space in between our actual game fields that we could put these kids at. So I don't see this being a problem at all.
2 to 3 years old, you could almost do it in the back of a pickup truck.
That's right.
Question? I'll entertain a motion to approve. Ms. Frank?
I've got a motion to approve this.
Yes.
Mr. Frank, the motion. Mr. Perry, second? That's great. Any questions? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Thank you, sir.
Thank you all.
I'm medicated. All right. Safe Stars Program, Mr. Gilly?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On Is this in the packet? I don't think there is any information on this in the packet.
Didn't see it.
Safe Stars program is a state of Tennessee initiative with several requirements. I mean, it's pretty lengthy process to get your department or your league certified to be in the Safe Stars. Murfreesboro has some leagues that have done this. It involves getting things like having all your coaches CPR trained. It involves having a plan of action for emergencies. It involves having access to AED machines. It involves sportsmanship. It involves a lengthy list of requirements. We think this is something that our leagues are close to achieving, but they're going to need our help to kind of push them to get the rest of it done. One example of that is background checks. We do background checks on head coaches. We don't do them on assistant coaches. I'm not going to speak personally for everybody in our office, but I think the overwhelming feeling is it's probably time that we start doing them on all coaches. You know, we currently are requiring people to pay for coaches training, but not necessarily requiring them to get CPR and first aid. And we're kind of at the point where we think we can find free coaches training online, and maybe the requirement should be for CPR and first aid that we pay for. So I guess our request would be twofold, that you all as a board, if you feel so inclined, to request us to begin background checks on all assistant coaches as well as head coaches. That's important because that will affect our budget and what we spend. So if I go over the professional services line item, I can tell them that Parks Board recommended that we start doing all those background checks. That would be one part of it. The second part I'll let Dallas speak to about coaches training. He can explain that a little better than I can probably.
Yeah. So I guess a couple months ago, we talked about requiring all leagues to do some type of coaching training, and we talked about the NAYS, which is what the Parks Department currently does. After talking, we actually had a meeting with all of our leagues today, and we discovered all leagues require coaching training of some sort. Not all leagues go through NAYS, like our soccer leagues go through U.S. Soccer, lacrosse goes through U.S. Lacrosse. And you know that's requirements for their leagues to go through those organizations. So one of the things that we were looking at doing as well in the Parks Department is going away from NAYS coaching training and going to USA Baseball training. We feel that the training that USA Baseball provides would be better for the sport of baseball and developing coaches for that sport. In addition to a little bit beyond just the sport of baseball, and just to talk about some of the stuff that the USA Baseball training would include is abuse awareness for adults, basic first aid, code of conduct, which is already covered in the NAYS, but it's also going to pitch smart, so it's going to talk about how to handle pitching and arms. It's going to go into drills and lesson plans for hitting, fielding, outfield, base running. So it's a lot more in depth than what NAYS would provide for our coaches. So I guess starting this fall, we would like to go to USA Baseball, do away with the NAYS, and we require this for all coaches. Now, I know one of the things that NAYS does provide that some of these other trainings, like the free one USA Baseball, does not, is the insurance policy, the $1 million liability. We feel, and we've talked with our attorney, Mr. Bradley, about this as well. We would like to make all of coaches for all leagues aware of the insurance policy, and that they can obtain it if they would like it or they feel that they need it. But we feel that as a city, we would be covering our bases, notifying them that they can obtain this if they'd like to. Another thing is currently, we're not requiring our assistant coaches to have the training or have that insurance now. So if something were to happen with a coach, I mean, he'd be kind of out on his own anyways, if he's not a head coach in our baseball league. When meeting with the leagues today, we told them that we were going to come to you guys to ask that you make it a requirement for all coaches in all leagues to be trained, some kind of coaching training. And we were going to ask that all leagues make all their coaches know about the liability insurance that's out there if they feel that they need it.
Okay.
And then additionally, so this would cut out the additional $25 for the coaching training for NAYS, and then that money can be put towards AED CPR training. We feel that that would be more beneficial for their money. That will save a life out there, having all of our coaches trained. But adding the AED CPR training on top of a cost to be certified as well, in addition to the time and the commitment it takes to coach, we're already struggling to find volunteer coaches as it is, and I think adding up to $60 just to volunteer to be a coach is going to push some coaches away from even volunteering. So.
Okay. Do we understand the body of what we're talking about here?
First of all, thank you for pursuing something, and even though it may not be met with a lot of popularity initially, I can tell you as a citizen, this is where we need to go. So I'll volunteer however I need to kind of get this thing moving. But just a couple of questions, because I want would this Save Stars program be an umbrella over all leagues that play under the park, or is it league by league?
It would be league by league. So the Parks Department is going for this for our leagues. So we are applying for our league, for our baseball league.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. That was kind of the basis of my question. All leagues, which would be Civitan, softball, flag football, soccer, lacrosse, those individually fall under this as well? Because you mentioned baseball for the training, and then you said for the baseball leagues. I'm just trying to get a picture of how broad this program is.
So the Save Stars that we're applying for currently, that we're working on, would be just for the Parks Department's summer and fall baseball league. Now, we have made all leagues aware of this, and just today, we made them aware of it. And I feel like a lot of them have a lot of the material already completed and that's required of them. And we asked for them to look into applying for their own individual leagues to do this.
Okay.
The training, so we are asking, I guess, from the training standpoint, for the Parks Department to go away from the NAYS and to go towards USA Baseball for the Parks Department. We're asking that you guys require all leagues to require coaching training, whether that be whatever training that they see fit. So that could mean Civitan baseball going to USA Baseball, or that could mean they stick with the NAYS. So it'd be kind of up to the league, but they need to provide some kind of coaching training.
Okay. I'll tell you also, since several months ago when the focus was on soccer, I can tell you that coaches' education, coaches' training was a very lively part of the Connect committee and athletic committee discussion as well. I know you guys were there, but for those of you who weren't, that was brought up as well. But the reason why I say that is as I've been having conversations casually with everybody that I know that has either come through the Parks Department, and regardless of sport, I would submit publicly that it's almost unanimous that people who sign their children up to play in any league these days assume that coaches are background checked. They are going on faith that that's happening already. So I believe that's something that we'll make a motion and formalize it. But I want to bring that up because with coaches' education and background check, everybody that I talked to said, "What do you mean they're not getting coaches' education? Does that mean they're not being background checked?" And I'm like, I don't know. It's kind of league by league. And there were some people that were really kind of taken by surprise. So the only thing that I would have, the further question I would have, and that may not be a discussion or a conversation for this meeting or even this board, but what kind of additional work does that put on you as the Parks Department for the accountability for a coach completing the training before given permission to start working with kids? And you mentioned it's difficult getting volunteer coaches as it is. Where's that accountability coming in? Because I think it's a great policy and I'm all for it, but I think if there's not a checks and balances there, we might be ended up with somebody in here questioning a suspension and we find out that they didn't complete coaches training.
Well, we have a checklist that we go through with all coaches. All leagues submit their list of coaches to us. And Keith, myself, Kristen in our office, and hopefully maybe a new employee down the road here will be added to our staff. And that will be adding a fourth person to monitor this, review this, make sure that we get all of these things taken care of and checked off. I feel like we have been successful in doing it up to this point with what we've been requiring. And I think these additions I think we'll be just as successful with the new additions that we're talking about here.
Thank you. I commend that.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
One other thing, talking about the assistant coach and background checks. In our meeting today, Brian Whitaker was there, and he talked about, he brought it up and asked if we could possibly look into doing assistant coaching. He's currently kind of screening on his own coaches, not going through background checks, but he's based on what he knows about coaches, gathering information on who they are. He's been trying to screen coaches as it is, but he does not feel comfortable continuing to do that without it being professionally background checked. And I agree with him. I think at this day and age we need to background check all coaches.
Mr. Gilley?
I was just going to I think we're dealing with three separate issues here. I don't know if you want to make three separate motions, but I think you probably do. One would be to have all coaches in all leagues background checks. One would be for us as a department to go away from the NYSA training for our baseball league and use USA Baseball online training.
If we're going to do three, let's attack one of them at a time.
I think that's fine.
All
Sure.
right. And the first one, state the first one so we can make a motion.
I think that would need to be to have a recommendation or a mandate, basically, that all coaches in all leagues have background checks performed through our department.
Okay.
I think the leagues will step up and help us pay for some of that, from what I understand. But
Yes, yeah. Brian Whitaker, in our conversation today, committed to paying for assistant coaches because he knows that pretty much the only thing in our budget right now is head coaches. So Civitan has agreed to pay for assistant coaching background checks. The other leagues have not committed to that at this point, but so basically we're talking about soccer, lacrosse, hockey are the other sports that haven't committed.
Dallas, what is the cost for that? Just
It's
curious.
I gotta go back and look at our records, but it's typically $15-16 a coach.
Okay.
And yeah, so and a lot of the coaches are they coach in multiple sports every year, every season. So we background check every calendar year. So if you submitted a background check today, you won't go through it again until this time next year.
Gotcha.
Do I have a motion for the background checks? Make that motion verbally. Yes, sir.
I make a motion that we require all leagues that are under our umbrella, require their coaches to be background checked, including assistant coaches. Is that correct?
Good enough, yeah. Second, Mr. Bennett. A question on the background. You mentioned the checks and balances on the thing. Couldn't there be some box to check and say, did you or have you not had the training?
For the background check?
Yeah.
We have it's online.
I mean, the background check.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
it's online. It's a database, so it's as simple as you just go in and type in a last name, and it pops up right there and tells you if they passed the background check, how long ago
Good.
it's been since they passed the background check. So it's very easy to manage.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I have a motion and a second.
The only thing the issue we come up with, what Darren was sort of leading to, was the people who get their assistant coaches at the last minute. That's when you have the issue, when I've dealt with, is, you have the draft and you've got one dad who's a head coach and he's been told to go find 2 or 3 assistant coaches and he gets them 2 weeks later. That's sort of the logistics we'll have to work through as an office. Yeah.
How big a portion of the problem is that? Is that a big portion of it?
That's a big issue, yes, sir.
I will say the background check company that we use, SSCI, a new company has bought them out. It's called NSCI, and they've made some major upgrades. So background checks used to take probably 7 to 10 days to come back to us. We're getting them back within the same week now, so it's a lot faster turnaround. That's happened in the last five months or so. So that'll be a major bonus to us being able to manage that, especially last minute coaching.
Any more questions? Have a motion? Yes, sir. Mr. Frank? Yes, sir.
With the many of the fall leagues already gone through registration, would there be any consideration for the fall season to try to accommodate those people who have already committed to coach and may not be aware of this until they, I'm thinking of rec soccer. They're going to kind of go through this open registration process, and usually about 2 weeks later they hit the field. And there are sometimes on the first night of practice they're out there recruiting parents to become coaches, and to spring this on a club who's going to want it and are going to appreciate, but giving them some time to implement with maybe some positive PR and really try to convince them to invest in it financially. Would we, as a board, want to set a mandate as of January 1st, 2020? Would that give basketball and winter leagues that span both the 19 and 20 calendar year the opportunity to organize and register? And in doing that, would that jeopardize the movement forward with Safe Stars application for baseball?
It won't affect Safe Stars for baseball, because that's where we're applying for it for our own league, and we will move forward with doing it for our league. So I don't think that will jeopardize our application. We're actually pretty much at the tail end of our application, minus the background checks and the CPR training. We pretty much have all of our other documents and paperwork in hand and ready to submit. But as far as, we could hold off until January 1 if making a requirement. And those leagues that do want to do it and do want to contribute, we can move forward with that as well.
Publicly here, for whoever is still watching, this would be a great first agenda item for the Connect Committee for soccer, because Tennessee United already does this, and they have the coaches' education in place as well. They're one and the same before they ever turn those coaches loose with anybody else's kid. This would be a great discussion for them. But I believe that there are going to be people that need some time to digest something, a new mandate being placed upon them. And I would think that, I know Mr. Head's not here to speak on behalf of some of the Civic 10 leagues. Mr. White might be able to feel how that might be carried down. My date of January 1st was completely arbitrary, but it was trying to preempt some fallout of not being able to move forward with some age groups and some teams in certain rec leagues or certain leagues when August rolls around, those things get kicked off.
Mr. White?
I just make sure we're all on the same page here, that I'm understanding what we're doing is, right now, if we vote to pass this, that this is going to be a Parks Department budget responsibility. And that we would ask the leagues if they are able to chip in?
I think that's the way I understand it, yes, sir.
Because what we're doing here, we're going to approve this, and it's going to cause your budget to possibly show a deficit, but you have the justification to show why,
Correct.
because we're approving this.
Yes, sir.
So what we would be asking is if any of the leagues could at some point give us consideration.
Especially
and
for
help.
this first year.
Yeah.
Which may, that may help the January 1st component of it.
Okay, now I've got a motion on the table. Do we want an amended motion?
Want to amend the motion on the table that we make it mandatory for all leagues to have all their coaches background checked, including assistant coaches. And this will start January 1, 2020.
Yes, sir.
Just one thing that come up, that's going to come up from the groups, I just see it coming from the groups, is like in baseball, let's say you've got a head coach and you got 2 assistants. Well, what happens on that 3rd assistant? Is he going to be considered assistant coach if it's a dad who just coaches, who just comes out once a month, and helps out when the other 2 guys aren't there? Some of us are going to say, do we need to say if he's on the field, he's an assistant coach? Something like that may come up also from the groups. Because they're going to ask us, does this guy, he guys who's going to coach for a month, does he need to have a background check? Yeah. I think in basketball, I didn't sign any assistant coaches because I couldn't find the people. Basically, basketball, I just assigned the head coaches and told the parents, if you got somebody that can help you, that's great if you're gone. But if we're going to do this, then basically anybody who's there with the kid on the floor would probably need to be considered assistant coach. So there's some definitions there for basketball, especially. The guy's a head coach and he misses one Saturday. Yeah, a parent feels in for him. Do we going to make that coach he's going to be considered a coach that day for the background check? Because he'll be there for the kids on the floor. Just some things to think about.
Good question.
That's a good question. I'm not sure that, I don't want to take the teeth out of this, guys.
Do we technically have too many questions about this to vote on this now? I know we have a motion.
You want my opinion on that?
Yes, sir.
I don't think there's too many questions to make it January 1st, 2020 mandated. I think we
Just
can
wanna make them
recommend. I
comfortable
think we
with
can
it.
recommend it to the leagues for this fall and let them know it's coming, and then we can work on the nuts and bolts of it by January 1st, 2020. But because that's a valid question, but there's a huge part of me that says if that guy does take the floor, he should have a background check. And before your season starts, if you know you're going to miss 1 week to be on vacation and you know who's going to take your place, we ought to turn that name in ahead of time. Kind of like Mr. Frank is right. There's nights when the league's just starting, when people are finding assistant coaches, but if they have 4 or 5 months to plan ahead, I'm hoping that they'll stop their registration in time to put their teams together to start contacting people like our office does, where we do have coaches lined up ahead of time. I think that's part of the problem there on some of that stuff is they should just be more organized ahead of time, even though it's really, really hard. I know it is.
Mr. White?
Do I really need to make it again, or?
I'd prefer you would, not, yeah, I'd prefer
Yeah,
you would,
that's
just
fine.
for the record.
It's fine. See if I can remember how I worded it.
That's all right.
I make a motion and amend the motion that was made that we as a board require all coaches, no matter whether they're assistant, head, all coaches, to have a background check, and we start this January 1, 2020.
Have a motion second. Mr. Perry second. Discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you, sir. That is just a problem. That shouldn't be. It really shouldn't. Because I remember back when I first started coaching, you could trust the people you played with and you coached with, and now you're just having a time. Sorry about that. All right. City employees discount.
Oh, we got a couple more pieces of that puzzle.
I'm going to go back to the previous one because we got a couple more.
There
Yeah.
you go.
What was the second?
I think the second one was, we needed a motion to, let us have USA Baseball online training for our, Parks Department run baseball leagues in place of the NYSCA.
Bubba makes a motion.
I'd like to make that motion. If
Okay.
we go to that USA
Second,
baseball.
Mr. White. Bubba's becoming a star. I like this. Discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? No. Thirdly, sir?
The third one would be to require all leagues to do some type of coaching training, through whatever organization, that national government body or whatever organization that they choose fits their league and their sport. And I would also add in there, and that all leagues require to notify their coaches that the insurance policy is out there if they would like to obtain it as well through NAYS.
Motion to approve? Questions first, I guess.
Are we setting any guidelines or stipulations on the training? Or are we just saying whatever training you tell us you're going to do is acceptable?
I think your motion could set that guideline if you say their training must be approved by the Parks Department staff.
That's how I would see it, that they need to notify us what training that they choose to do. If we have any questions, we can bring it to you guys to discuss further.
Yeah. I think there does need to be some oversight.
Yeah.
And approval of what that training is going to be. The league submits something. And also on making sure that everybody's aware of the insurance policy. I think we need to have documentation that they acknowledge that they've been told.
Yes.
About the insurance.
More questions? I'll entertain a motion.
Yeah, I'll make the
Sorry?
motion that we require all leagues to do coaches' training, and that training is submitted to the Parks Department for approval, and that there is a form that everybody signs acknowledging the fact that they have been told that insurance policy is available to them if they choose to do it.
Motion. Second, Mr. Pike. More discussion, if any? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. That would be all of them, right? Yeah. City employees discount for parks programs, Mr. Gilly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We've had some city employees come to our office and ask if they were getting the discount, and nobody in the office seems to know what the discount is.
Really?
Or when it started, or when it stopped, or what the process is for that. So, I would just ask you all to, as you all are the body that sets fees for our programs, well, I think we said 25% is what we suggested, but you all can make it whatever you want. I do think it's a good thing. I know when we have camps through the schools, we give the staff at the school discounts for their kids coming to camp, and
Valid point.
same thing here should apply possibly.
How did you arrive at 25?
I just
How do you-
that was a completely random number, actually. I just was trying to think what was right. I don't know what's best, but
I'd say 100% for me, but
free, we can do it. I mean,
no, we can't either. We will,
And just to clarify, this would be for parks programs. So
Yes, sir.
like Miss Hamlin's Summer Funtastics or our parks, summer baseball, parks, things that we govern in our department.
Yeah.
We're not going to necessarily control, if the civic groups want to give discounts for city employees, they can do that too, but we can't, I don't think, control that.
I think that's a valid thing. I think we need to discuss is 25 agreeable, or any thoughts on that?
Couple of points, just because I know I'll be asked. The Parks Board governs Tennessee United, correct?
Correct.
So would a city employee get 25% off fees?
That's what I'm saying. This would be for programs that just our department runs.
Okay, I'm in agreement with that. I just think that's really clear, because the last thing you need is a city employee coming fuming mad to you based on a misinterpretation or a misapplication of that.
And what we'll do on our end is kind of we can send one email to all city employees.
Okay.
That will list the specific programs that
Okay.
would apply to.
Yeah, I just think that's helpful, but yeah.
I'll entertain a motion.
Does that need to be put in the motion, worded that way?
Yes. Okay, I think so. I mean, I don't have a vote about that, but what do you think?
I have a question. Would this extend to, like, shelter rentals?
I believe we already have a policy on that, on shelters, but not on programs.
We have a policy
and
on
rec-
shelters, but not on
Yeah.
athletics. I think.
So that would not need to be a part of this motion?
No, I think
because
the
it's
city
separate.
employees, I believe, get free shelters except for shelter
Shelter
8.
Okay.
And then shelter 8, they have to pay a nominal fee.
What's the discount on the shelter?
The shelters are free, except for shelter 8, and I'd have to ask Kristen on that exact discount for shelter 8.
Except for the big one, right?
That's the big one,
That's the big
correct,
number
yeah.
8.
That's what I
But
thought.
it's, they don't have to pay a whole lot on that.
All right, do I hear a motion? Mr. Pike? You're on a roll, Bob.
All right, let me see if I can word this.
Oh, goodness.
You want it done right, don't you?
No, well, okay, can you do, no, go ahead. Okay.
I make a motion that we incorporate a city employee discount, 25%, for the programs that the Parks Department itself is responsible for,
Starting January 1st.
starting January 1st,
Nice. That was
2020.
That was very nice. Second, Mr. Perry, second. Any more discussion? He's got blood in the water now.
It's going to need ice.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Love you, Bubba. For your information, special events list, I'm sure we have that in front of us, do we not? Special reports, I don't see Miss Hamlin down there, but I see the lovely, lovely Miss Wise down there. Got her married already.
Thank you. It's not too often I hear that.
I won't ever get out of this.
We've had several fishing tournaments this month. We've had the TJ Martell, we've had the Open Series fishing tournament, and we've had the Shriners fishing tournament. We also had our own fishing rodeo back at the beginning of the month. Despite the bad weather, we still had a good turnout, and everyone seemed to enjoy the new additions that I had to this event. Tennis had its USTA Junior One-Day Novice Tournament last weekend, and Hendersonville High School Baseball had its baseball camp last week. Coming up, we've got the summer football camp is wrapping up this week. The Game 7 World Series starts tomorrow with opening series, which includes a concert in the park tomorrow night and a movie in the park on Thursday night. We also have the Cal Ripken 9U tournament this weekend. We also have our last fishing tournament of this month, Fishers of Men, on Saturday. The triathlon is on Sunday morning, and then the Freedom Festival is next week. The Parks Department will be having a booth at this event, so come check us out and enjoy some great fireworks, and also enter for your chance to win tickets to the Nashville Sounds. And then, of course, we have numerous baseball, softball events going on in July, including the PGF tournament and the Beach High School baseball camp.
Thank you, Ms. Hamlin/Wise. Questions? Thank you, ma'am. Special events program, the same, Ms. Wise. It's up to you. You got me now, so you can do whatever you want to.
I'll do Cindy's report. Summer camp is going on. It ends the end of July.
Thank you, dear.
Awesome. That's awesome right there. That's great.
Maintenance Supervisor, Mr. Granat. See, he's not there.
Mr. Granat returns from vacation tomorrow. We hope, if they pass the budget as it is, to be able to add a couple of full-time maintenance people. That is the maintenance report.
That is an exceptional report. Thank you very much, sir. Assistant Director, Mr. Long.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The adult soccer season is ongoing. They'll finish up in mid-July. Other than that, all soccer fields at Drakes Creek Park are now closed for summer maintenance. They'll open back up the last weekend of July for Tennessee United's team camp. We had several sports camps this past couple of weeks, including Hendersonville High School baseball, soccer, Tennessee United, and then Civitan football camps ongoing right now. Summer baseball league's ongoing, got about 3 weeks left of that. Fall baseball registration started last week, and we'll be accepting teams through July 14th, and then they'll start up the beginning of August. Summer men's basketball league's ongoing, got about a month left of that. Summer tennis lesson registration ends tomorrow, and then they'll start up on July 2nd. And then just a little recap, had 2 brand new events in our park past month. Just want to touch base on those a little bit. The National Flag Football Tournament was this past weekend. We had about 56 teams attend that. It was a one-day tournament at our park, and we were able to get it in with all the weather. It was first time for us, huge success. And then yesterday, the championship games were in the Tennessee bubble. We had 2 champions in the tournament from Hendersonville, and one of those was the 14U division, which they will get about a $30,000 prize to Disney. They'll go to the Pro Bowl, get to play in the tournament there. They got to go into the Titans locker room, got to pick out a bunch of gear that they'll get to wear on the plane down, free tickets to Disney, hotels covered. So it's a huge success for our 14U Lions team that won yesterday. In addition to that, we had our first lacrosse tournament with Lacrosse America. If you were out at the park that weekend, I think we all agree that's probably one of the most well-organized run events we've ever hosted in Hendersonville. They had 60 teams there, and it was just phenomenal. Got nothing but great reviews from them. They loved our park, and hopefully we'll be able to work with them again next year. I have a good feeling that they'll want to come back here. So, other than that, that's all I got for my report.
Thank you, Mr. Long. Questions? Yes,
I just want to say one thing on the lacrosse. I commend y'all for bringing that. What little my daughter worked down there, and everybody I talked to that was part of that on their end was nothing but first class. So I hope they do come back. It was a well-run event.
Nice. Assistant Director, Mr. Bruce?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The kickball finals were a couple weeks ago, and the Loudmouths ended up the winners for.
Was I part of that?
I think you were on the reserve list.
Love that kickball, man. Man's got to know his limitations.
Exactly. The softball men's open league, we've got one more night for that. We got rained out last Wednesday. They were supposed to finish up, so going to postpone that a little bit. The senior men ongoing on all three divisions for those guys. The fall leagues, the adult leagues, I think we're going to start those in July, sign-ups, kickball and softball. For basketball, we started meeting or had some discussions with Civitan about how the basketball is going to go this year. Going to start meeting with them probably more on a regular basis after July 4th holiday and getting all that stuff worked out, some logistics. It'll be a lot of logistics this first year, and we'll work through that with those guys. And the last thing would be let's go home and watch Vandy play. Go Vandy.
I agree with you.
Thank you, sir.
How they doing tonight, do you know?
I haven't checked yet.
Anybody? Okay, anyway, that's fine. Any questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Park Director, Mr. Gilly?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just make sure Ms. Wise brought it up, but invite everybody to the concert in the park tomorrow night as they do the parade of teams for the World Series. And then Thursday night, sponsored by Volunteer State Bank, The Goonies at Veterans Park. Movie in the park night. Daddy's Dogs, hot dogs, Maggie Moo's ice cream. Mary's Magical Place, movie in the park, inflatables. How could it get any better?
Couldn't be any better.
That's it.
Couldn't be any better. That's good. Any questions, Mr. Gilly? Thank you. Round table, Mr. Perry? Mr. Pike? Good. Mr. Bennett? Mr. Frank? Oh, Mr. Zettergren?
Oh, you got it, yes.
Mr. White?
I have one quick question on the Safe Stars program. How close do you think we are to being able to require the leagues to start looking at that? I know we're doing it, but is that something, I would like to see us grow into that, and maybe are we the test program for that to see and then start pushing our leagues toward that as well?
I think the key component to that is going to be the requirement of the CPR training for all the coaches, not just one. To be honest, we almost already cover. They give you like a list of 10 things that you can do, and if you do 4 of them, you qualify. But some of them are not easy to obtain. And there's 3 levels. There's like the basic level, and then silver, and then gold. It's harder to get the first level than it is to become silver or gold. Like we already do more of the gold stuff, but some of the basic stuff as far as background checks and CPR training we have not necessarily done. So I think we're closer than we probably realize. It's not going to be easy, but it's attainable.
Very nice. Motion to adjourn. Mr. Frank, second. Mr. Perry, all in favor? Aye. Out of here.